Having shipped over 1,000 radioactive packages, ranging from accepted to Type B, our board-certified health physicists have developed this online DOT IATA training module detailing how to ship radioactive packages. Presented here is an accelerated course summary of the much longer DOT IATA training. First, we're going to start off by classifying radioactive material. So to ship a package, you have to know what goes in it. So first, you define what radionuclide it is. What's the symbol of the nuclide? What's the element? Atomic number. What is the quantity? So how much radioactivity is there? How many radiations decaying coming out of the source? What is the specific activity, the radiation coming out of the source per mass? Then we have to classify the form. Is it special? Low specific activity? Surface contaminated object? Is it fissile? Or is it a normal form? The typicals here are the special and normal. The fissile, LSA, and SCO aren't common, or as common. Then you classify the quantity. Based on the above mentioned things, you classify into an exempt, which is a table lookup, a limited quantity, type A, type B, etc. So then from there, you have some subsets. Is the shipment also a reportable quantity? Is it highway route controlled quantity? Is it fissile? And your exempt quantities are a lookup, table lookup. Above that is limited quantities. Above that, type A. Above that, type B. These are your commons. Then you have packaging. Packaging of material. What package do you put said material into? So exempt package, accepted package. There's industrial packages, type A package, type B package, etc. So, moving on, our exempt package has lower amount of activities, exempt quantities. Accepted packages have limited quantities. Type A packages have type A quantities, and type B packages have type B quantities. An exempt package is shipped as not radioactive. It's a table lookup, verifies a concentration is not exceeded, and a consignment, a total activity, is not exceeded for the nuclide that you're shipping. The accepted packages contain limited quantities and several UN numbers denoting accepted packages, but it can't exceed 0.5 milliamp per hour and a couple other things. So some UN numbers for accepted packages, 2910 being the most common, 2911 probably the second most common for your instruments and articles. Type A is a little more common for isotopes produced, shipped to hospitals. Type A packages contain type A quantities. These are made to resist varying things. They're tested to ensure that they don't. And one must have a type A test for every type A package that is shipped. You must have the results of said test to demonstrate compliance. Here's some labels you would see on a type A package. We'll go over that in a minute. Type B package is much larger, made to handle much more worst case scenarios and more activity. There's a unilateral and a multilateral shipment. So moving into marking. So again, this is a summary course. We're not covering everything, just an accelerated version of it. So marking, quickly talking about that, you'd have a shipper and a to from address, a proper shipping name, you'd have the identification number, you'd have specification marking on the box. And if it's over 50 kilograms, you'd have the weight in the box. Those are your markings. Now moving into labeling, there's hazard labels, accepted package hazard labels. There's radioactive white 1, yellow 2, yellow 3, and as you can see there's IATA minimum dimensions for them. Moving into labels for radionuclide, we now can have certain things on there. We can have contents, activity, a transport index we won't talk about in this course, but a dose rate at a meter from the box. It's a unitless, dimensionless number, but talked about more in the other class. And these are in SI units, becquerels, kilobecquerels, or units, multiples thereof. So some radiation levels, white 1, as you can see, less than 0.5 millirem per hour, not measurable at a meter. A yellow 2, less than 50 millirem per hour, greater than 0.5 at the surface, and less than 1 at a meter. As long as you don't exceed these, is the label that would go on them. And a yellow 3 you can see. There, now some handling labels. Some requirements for labeling. We talk about your hazard labels required. You have handling labels, subsidiary labels. Again, I apologize for moving quickly through this accelerated training, but the content covered much more in depth in a much larger presentation later. So you're labeling where they would go is you now have your box, your labels on opposite sides, each label. And there's a lot of other criteria we'll talk about in a much more detailed course. But there it is as a summary. Now Placard, now what are these? These are required for a yellow 3 highway route controlled, and if they're LSA and surface contaminated objects consigned as exclusive use. We won't talk about that too much, but that's where you're required to have a placard. And then you can see the differences here between IATA and other regulations, DOT regulations. So some limits on the vehicles. So if you have a non-exclusive versus an exclusive use vehicle, you can see that the dose rates at various locations from a vehicle, and this is for shippers, and the transport vehicle itself vary, whether you describe it as a non-exclusive or exclusive use. So some shipping paper examples. Through the main course, we have many examples where we go over these in detail in the online course. Just here's a couple. So if we had to prepare shipping paper, cobalt 60, solid source, normal, for research use. If the activity was 0.2 megabecquerels, which is 5.4 microcuries, the dose rate was 0.4 milliamp per hour at 1 meter. It was not measurable. So what we do here first is we go through our lookups in our tables and classify, what quantity this is. Based on this, we look at the A1 and A2 values, 11 curies. So we look at this and say, what's 5.4 microcuries? Well, it's not required because this shipping paper is only required for type A's. So it's a limited quantity. Other shipping things are needed, but not a shipping paper. The limited quantity limit is 0.4 gigabecquerels, and right here we are 0.2 megabecquerels, much, much less than the limit. So that's the label you need. Your accepted package is normal for research use. Now if we had a type A, cobalt 60, normal for research use, the activity was 0.2 terabecquerels instead of the previous example, which was 5.4 microcuries, is 5.4 curies. Much, much larger. The surface dose rate is 15 milliamp per hour, and at 1 meter, 1.57 milliamp per hour. So we look through this, and because it is research use, it's normal, the TI is less than 3, we can put it on a passenger and cargo aircraft. Talk about that more in the bit larger class. We go over our A1s, same as before, because this is the same isotope. 11 curies is the A1, A2. So as you can see, 5.4 is less than 11 curies. So we're going to classify this as a 2915, because it's a normal form. Radioactive material, we'll talk about special forms much more in detail than the other class, but that's a UN number is different. The proper shipping name would be radioactive material type A package. The classification and risk would be 7. The quantity and packing instructions would be cobalt 60 normal form, 1 type A package, 200 gigabecquerels. You could also put 0.2 terabecquerels. Then instructions would be a yellow 3, TI 1.6, because it's 1.57 milliamp per hour. We'll talk about that in the larger class, but the TI is to the 10th. Dimensions of the box for this fictitious example I made up of 30 centimeters by 30 by 30. Well, thank you very much for listening. I hope you enjoyed.